All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Section 508 learning session. This is part one. Today's date, Thursday, September 22nd, 2022. And there'll be two parts. Like I said, today's part one, and this will just be an overview. And the meeting we have next week, I'm just going to give you a bevy of all different type of resources for how to remediate documents. But the main thing today, we're going to discuss what 508 is about and how it relates to the federal government. All right. In today's session, we will specifically learn what is Section 508, what does it cover, the history, and the consequences of not complying. Before we begin, I'll introduce myself. I'm Erica Williams. Jeff, you know me already, but to Odd, I'll introduce myself. My name is Erica Williams, and I'm the senior web designer for the OITU website. I've been designing and coding websites for over 30 years now. And in those years, I've had a lot of experience with Section 508 from the standpoint of how to make a website accessible and documents that you would post to the web. So with that said, we'll get started. What is Section 508? Well, Section 508 requires any information and communication that's technology related with the federal government, and anything that we create, anything that we maintain or use, it has to be accessible for everyone, including people with disabilities. So besides making content accessible for federal employees, we have to make sure that people in the general public can access our information as well. Then that brings us to ICT. That's often used a lot with 508 compliance. You'll see that in relation to one another. And what ICT is, information and communication technology. And it refers to the different type of technologies for accessing information. And some of that would be, an example of that would be like your computer, your operating system like Windows, your smartphone is considered ICT, even an Android, a copier in the office, that's an example. So pretty much any information obtained through computers and smartphones is labeled as ICT. Also web pages, documents, and videos. So a little bit about the history. It starts in 1986 when Section 508 was added as the 508th Amendment to the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. So sadly, there were no enforcements made at that time. People weren't really using computers in the office. They were, if they did, it definitely wasn't in the capacity that we're using now. So in 1998, after the internet was introduced, email, all that great stuff, there were details that were added to the amendment. And in 2016, definitely reflected all of the new technologies. And in 2018, it's enforced. So it is now a law, has to happen. So let's talk about the consequences of not being 508 compliant. There are legal issues, and we've had that here at HHS. There's definitely been some issues. And what will happen is the agency or the department can have a complaint filed against it, or our agency or department could be required to pay for attorney fees. Other issues are disabled individuals will not be able to get the same information, and our information just wouldn't be compliant and accessible, and that's not okay. So if we don't comply, they can file a civil action suit. And the 508 only applies to the federal government. So someone like Target, a place like Target, they don't have to follow 508. But Target and other companies have had issues and lawsuits as well, because people can access how to, how to check them from the store, anything like that. So it goes to court, and the judge will amount of time to remediate your website and then come back to us. And if they don't do it within that time, whoever is suing, they can win their case. So 508 is really just strictly for the federal government. But I think Biden is working on having legislation for also private industry, but that hasn't come about yet, but it should be soon. So what needs to be compliant? This is why we're here. Let's see, what needs to be compliant? All digital content that's created, maintained, purchased by the federal government, including websites, web application, mobile application, and electronic documents. And those really affect us in this office. So like I said, in the next session, we'll talk about how to remediate those type of documents. And I can help you even offline if you need any help with anything. Jeff, or Odd, if you need anything, just come to me. So we're going to talk about just different disabilities and just like an overview of that. And disabilities, they range from visual impairments such as color blindness to low vision to complete blindness. It's been estimated that over 21 million adults, including myself, I have some sort of visual loss. There are different disabilities that can be impacted when an individual is trying to access ICT. So there are, like I was saying before, there's color blindness, you have low vision, and you have complete blindness. And then we're going to talk about blindness. So with blindness, I often wonder how it would be if I couldn't see a computer screen and how would I navigate it. So blind people, what they do is they use screen readers, which announce what is on the screen, but it also sends information to Braille devices. And the most common screen reader that a lot of users use is called JAWS, J-A-W-S. Another popular and free screen reader is NVDA. And Apple users, we use VoiceOver, and Android users use TalkBack. We have, did you have any questions?
No, I just didn't realize there were so many different kinds.
And then there's something called Dragon Freely Speaking. That's another one, but that one is very expensive. So that one is usually not mentioned a lot. So the next thing is audio descriptions. And audio descriptions are needed when developing videos or webinars. Audio descriptions are helpful when the dialogue is not enough to understand what's happening. They describe what's happening in the video. So like, imagine if you are trying to enjoy a TV show, movie, or a live performance, but you're not able to see it. So it would be challenging to get an understanding of what's happening. You would most likely miss critical information that is expressed visually through gestures, character actions, scenery, rather than audio. And that's when audio descriptions come in. So later on, I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about now. It's a movie trailer for Frozen, and it's done using an audio description service. So I'll make sure I show that at the end. The next thing I want to talk about is low vision. So someone with low vision may need to adjust the size of the text on a web page or an electronic document. So I have a Word document that you guys sent to me, and I can't really see it. In Microsoft Word, I can adjust it from 200%, 300. I can do back and forth. We need to be able to do that on web pages as well, like hitting a key where I can zoom in and make the text larger, and it should not break the website. So that's one of the challenges we have when you're dealing with the web. But definitely in Word documents, you should be able to make it bigger and smaller and resize the text. Also, color contrast. If everything is already kind of blurry, if it's like a yellow background with white text, you're not going to be able to see that. So those are things we have to keep in mind when we're creating text, like in PowerPoint or Word document, for individuals with low vision. So if you have low vision, things that's going to be really hard for you is reading, driving, recognizing someone's face, and telling colors apart, and actually being able to see the television screen or your computer screen clearly. Color blindness. If you have color blindness, it means you see colors differently than most people. And at the end of this, I'm going to also have a website that you can go to see if you have color blindness. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some folks are born with that. But we have to keep in mind when we're doing design work and when we're making charts to not use certain color variations together. Because if you're going to be saying, okay, we'll see over here on this side of the chart, they're not going to be able to see it because it's green with red. So those are things that we have to keep in mind. And it's estimated that there are around 300 million colorblind people in the world. So like I was saying, if you're colorblind and instructions are used based on color alone, the message has been lost. So I have here color combinations that are really, really hard for folks who are colorblind. Using green and red, which is kind of hard because Christmas time, those are two colors that go together. Green and brown, blue and purple, green and blue, light green and yellow, blue and gray, green and gray, and green and black. Now, I'm not colorblind, but I do wear contacts and have astigmatism. These colors here make things kind of blurry for me. So even though I'm not a colorblind individual, I have astigmatism. It still is an issue for colors. Because right now, I don't know if you guys can see the circle, but that's supposed to be the number 74. I don't know if you can see it, yes or no, but I also see 84. And the reason why I see 84 is because I have astigmatism. So there's like a curvature issue with my eyes. So there's a lot of things with, relaying information and folks with issues with their eyes. So the issue of using color alone, if I have a chart and I don't give any specifics, I'm just saying the first quarter is in blue, the second quarter is orange. Well, if I'm blind or if I can't really see colors too well, that doesn't help me. So you can still use this graph, but you need to say in the first quarter, there's X amount of money was spent. You have to give more specific details, not just using only color. So that's something else we have to keep in mind. So the next thing we're going to talk about is deaf and hard of hearing. And according to NIDCD, there's approximately 15% of American adults, which is 37.5 million, age 18 and over, they have some trouble with hearing. I know myself at nighttime, I can't have I live in a condo, so we can't have the TV blaring. So I use closed captioning because I can't really hear too well in the, at nighttime. So that's something that I use, even though I'm not deaf, a little bit of hard of hearing. And that's for me playing my music too loud in the car and listening to my headset as a youngster, having it too loud. So I'm dealing with that now. But it's okay, because there's things that help folks that have hearing issues. So let's see. Assistive technology, video applications such as YouTube, you can add closed captioning. In fact, YouTube adds it automatically. And you can use also a lot of webinar software programs like Zoom and also I think WebEx. They already have it built in where you can transcribe the dialogue of what's going on in the meetings. And this is beneficial to anyone who's deaf or hard of hearing during the webinar. Transcripts are also helpful, but transcripts are not the substitute for captioning, especially for podcasts or any other audio only content. So I'm not very well versed in this area of assistive technology, but I also have links that I can share with you if you need help with captioning or doing transcripts for any podcast or something. I think, Jeff, that may be something coming in the future, maybe. So
yeah, I was originally actually on for podcast development, so I don't know if that's still coming through, but that's something I'm curious about.
Okay. So there's help out there for that. You know what I mean? Even if it comes to the point where we had to buy software to help with, the transcription or anything like that. But those are just some of the things for 508 covers for assistive technology. And then the last thing is motor disabilities. And a lot of times when we think about disabilities in 508, we don't think about individuals that may not be able to use their arms or turn their neck or anything with motor, moving around. And a lot of times someone who has like cerebral palsy, ALS, spinal cord injury, multiple sclerosis, just to name a few. Some people have carpal tunnel. There's different, types of situations. So we have to make sure keystrokes are done. And this pertains more so with websites. Being able to navigate through the website using keystrokes, using the tab key. And if I can wear a headpiece and have like, I'm not sure what the name of it is, but it's like a connector that you can tap on the keyboard. That helps as well. So yeah, that's an individual who has limited use of the hands will benefit from being able to use a tab key on their keyboard or other devices. And that's what you see in the picture. The child is using a head stick to navigate, to click buttons and do other controls. And they can also click enter and have other software that helps with the enter button connect to other functionalities. But that would be a program that an individual with motor disabilities would download. And so thank you for this portion of it. We're not done, but at the end of this session, and to help us with the next one, I'm going to send you a Word document with a whole different various online videos. So before I show the 2 fun activities I have, I wanted to know if you guys had any questions or any concerns about today's presentation.
About the presentation, no, but in the future, I'm definitely gonna have more questions about Acrobat.
Yes, and
Cool.
we can delve into that. We can delve into that.
Cool. No, this is great.
So I wanted to show. So this is an example of audio description.
From the creators of Tangled and Wreck-It Ralph, Disney. A carrot-nosed, coal-eyed snowman shuffles up to a purple flower peeping out of deep snow.
Hello.
He takes a deep sniff. His nose lands on a frozen pond. A reindeer looks up and pants like a dog. Seeing the reindeer slip on the ice, the snowman smiles and moves towards him, though actually he's running on the spot. The reindeer falls on his chin. The snowman uses his arm as a crutch. The reindeer paddles his front legs. Head over heels, the snowman crawls along the ice. The reindeer does the breaststroke. The snowman rolls his body, but flips onto his back. The reindeer's tongue sticks to the ice. The snowman held his head. Twig arm and reindeer lips tug at the carrot. The carrot falls
Hey,
off
how are you?
the snow.
Good.
The reindeer goes
Um,
after it with
Sorry, one
snowman
second.
body parts hanging on his tail. The snowman puts himself back together again and glumly contemplates his noseless state. The reindeer jams the carrot back in place and pants like a proud puppy. The snowman pats him with his stick-thin arm, then goes to sneeze. He grabs his nose with both hands. His head shoots on. Frozen, coming this winter in 3D.
Now, if I presented that trailer and I didn't have that audio description, we have a whole bunch of users that are not going to be able to access it, you know? So that's like an example of audio descriptions. And it becomes challenging. They do the audio descriptions for the whole entire, movie or trailer or whatever it may be. The other thing I wanted to share with you guys was the color contrast and colorblind test. And I'm going to put it in the chat. And you don't have to do it. You don't have to share with me, what the outcome is. I'm not trying to see, are you colorblind or not? When I took it, sometimes I saw different numbers because of my astigmatism. So they don't say that, but I think astigmatism also affects, maybe I'm not colorblind, but it affects the curvature of the numbers that are on here. So,
What's funny is I also have astigmatism, and I didn't realize, I saw immediately the 84 when you said it, but I did see 74, but I saw what you meant. It was really easy for me to see
what I meant.
84.
And I've been in like a higher level meeting one time, and it was a chart that was done in gray and white. And a higher up, and in this column here, and he was like, I don't see. He was sitting there like, I don't see it. And he did that on purpose because he was colorblind. He didn't announce that he was colorblind, but he wanted to let it be known, like, you're really not relaying information here, and I'm missing it.
Yeah.
And you guys need to, So at the end of the meeting, he whispered to someone, I'm colorblind, and then so we don't want that to happen in any meetings. And sometimes we put together PowerPoint slides and not realizing if it's a gray background and using white font, that we can see it, but it may be a little harder for someone that's older or, maybe even have low vision. So that was really the purpose of today's class. Just kind of think about, because we always say 508, 508, but we never think about the people that it may affect. And then that kind of helps me when I'm remediating a document. I'm thinking about all the different users and the different, situations that they may be in. So when remediating a document, I try to make sure I do that. Some things, like I was saying earlier, we can't remediate, but you can always make an extra document with any notes that may be missing with infographics. Because I know it's just impossible to do an infographic and put it into alt text. Alt text is not meant to be a book. So, and some people, they make the mistake, this is an image of you can't do that. It has to be quick and easy, but it's, descriptive of whatever it is. If it requires more, then we get a Word document and say, hey, image 1.2, then you may have to start labeling your images and then make a Word document. And image 1.2, this is you can write a story, you can do whatever you want with that. That's how we fix things that are graphic heavy, but can't explain it. The same with graphs. And I know with the project that, we're working on, students may have like complex graphs or charts. I'm not sure if that's what they'll be putting together. But a way to remedy that is just writing out a summary of what your presentation is. If you can't, use alt text for that.
And it goes to show, if you can't describe your image in words, then you know, what's the image even showing anyway?
Exactly. Sometimes images are just like odd. Sometimes I was telling, you know, Jeff, sometimes if you're doing a PDF and it's just a logo at the top, you can make that a background image because it doesn't relay any information. It's more cosmetic. It's just a
Yeah.
logo in the top corner. But if there's an image of two people talking and it's Jeff and myself talking, we got to label that because it has meaning to the message versus the stock images where there's two people talking just to show that, you know, they're talking. And you still might want, you will still want to alt tag that, but it can be background if it doesn't relay any information. So it's just up to you. How do you feel? Just imagine yourself accessing your document and not
So,
being.
for example, and I could just describe it. We use the resilience workbook, right? It has like a bunch of graphic elements, which I can send it to you to check out if you want on, but the borders around the like places people have to write.
That's
Do we have to? Okay.
If we ever have to go to Congress, go downtown, we can say, hey, we put an extra effort in to make it compliant. Because at the end of the day, everything is not 100%. Did you put effort in to make it accessible? And if the answer is yes, that's all we can do. It's just showing that we did make an effort to make it compliant. And I feel like when I tell people that, it takes some of the anxiety away because you hear it has to be 508. You feel like, well, I mean, it's overbearing because it's like I've put all this together and it's saying that it's not compliant. I just want to give up.
Yeah.
So what I do is like when I made this PowerPoint that from the slide that I took from you, Jeff, it was already, I just cleared everything out. But as I was going and adding images, I was running the accessibility checker. So I see that I'm adding this image. Let me go ahead and alt tag it while I'm working actively in it. That way you don't already have your document together and then you run it and see you have all these alt tags that need to be, you know, tagged up. You're doing it as you go. If you run the accessibility checker, if your color contrasts are off, like you're using that yellow background with the white text, it'll let you know ahead of time, oh, let me go back and fix that. But if you can alt tag stuff and it's clean, then you can just use that. You don't have to have an addendum with it. It's when you get complex images that you can't tag and you can't get behind the PDF, because you know how it is. PDFs can get kind of heavy. You can't fix it. If it gets to a point where you can't fix it, then that's when we put together a Word doc. And if someone says, hey, you know, I'm having a hard time accessing this, you'd be like, I have a Word document with just strictly the text. Would that help you guys out?
Okay, great. This is really informative. Thank you.
This is 508. 508 is just making sure that folks in the federal government, because as a federal employee, if I can't access something, that's an EEO issue.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm feeling if I feel discriminated against because I can't access this document because I have X, Y, and Z disability. So we have to make sure that everyone comes to the table feeling comfortable, being able to do their job. And the whole purpose of the federal government is for the American people. So we have to make sure that America can access. And if they can't, then it's like, I feel like giving up.
Good point.
So if nothing else, if you have to provide a write-up or whatever it is you've done something. Because a lot of times federal agencies like, oh, well, it just can't be done. And we can't do that. And we don't want to be downtown on Capitol Hill testifying that we didn't, you know what I mean? We didn't make sure that the American people were taken care of. So that's really what 508 is.